Hello everyone, my name is Gina and welcome to Season Beauties. This video on today is rather serious. I just wanted to share something with you, and what you do with this information is totally up to you, but I really wanted to share. I tell you on this channel that I'm here to look out for my sisters and my brothers and those who are in this community, okay? Now, why am I saying this? Well, when I heard this news and when I began to read articles about it, at first I had some really pleasant memories that came up, like Easter Sunday, prom, graduation. You know, when we made sure our hair was totally on point, looking just like we wanted it to. You'd stand there and just, do one of these numbers all day. But who told us our natural hair was bad? Who told us that? Well, then I began to think about when I got a little bit older. And in the area in which we lived, it was against the law to wear your natural hair to work. This law was just overturned recently, and by recently I mean within the last 5 years. Here it is. This is the 21st century, and this is where we still are? Really? Well, this article had a large headline, and it said they were diagnosed with uterine cancer and tumors. I'm like, okay, what are they talking about? Those who had our share of perms and color treatments and things like that that had chemicals in it, known by the companies to cause damage to our bodies. However, they didn't even give us the opportunity to decide if we wanted to use them or not. There were no warnings on the labels, and now there are lawsuits popping up left and right. Now, this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. Who told us that our natural hair was not the best? I'm still trying to figure that out. Well, another reason why is, if you remember a couple years ago on this channel, during Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I talked about my sister. I have a special needs sister who developed breast cancer, and we're sitting here, my mom and I had several conversations of what was different, why did this happen, as if she did not have enough things going on in her life. Why this too? And we just really couldn't wrap our heads around it, and why her? And then I began to read this article, and so many of the things that they talk about in this article, my siblings, my sisters, my mom, as well as myself, had to go through. But I just want to read you some excerpts from this. I will leave a link down below, but I want to make sure, if you did not know, that by the time you finish with this video, you will know, and you can take appropriate steps however you feel, okay? Now, in this article, it started off by saying now they're suing the makers of chemical hair straighteners. A recent study found that women who reported frequent use of hair straightening products were more than twice as likely to develop uterine cancer and fibroids than women who did not. And the thing is, the companies that created these products knew these things could cause harm to our bodies and did not give us the opportunity to make the choice for ourselves. It's not okay for you to be able to take my choice away. Because a lot of us right now, if we knew back then what we know now, this is a decision that we would not have even thought about making. Not even thought about it. So I began to read a little further. And in this article, there were women who underwent radical hysterectomies, the removal of their uterus or cervix, ovaries, and fallopian tubes, and tried to come to terms with the way that this disease, cancer, altered their lifestyles. Why? Why did this happen? All we were trying to do was be able to hold down a job in corporate America because we weren't allowed to have your natural hair in corporate America. That kept you from being promoted. Come on, y'all. I'm just saying. There were three women who spoke to NBC News exclusively who had filed federal lawsuits against companies like L'Oreal, as well as others, alleging that the chemicals in the company's hair products caused them to develop uterine cancer and other severe health problems. These women, they ended up with chemotherapy or radiation to try to get these things under control. And yet, even with it becoming controllable then, they still ran the risk of these things coming back. Why? Because once you are susceptible to them, you run a higher risk of them coming back. Now, I don't understand even now, what is it about our natural hair that made corporate America so afraid? What? Why are you taking my positivity and me being secure in who I am, my confidence, to allow you to become insecure, afraid? What? My ability is what my job should have been based on, not what my hair looked like. My promotion should not have been decided on what the texture of my hair was. Look, as if people of color didn't have to go through enough already. When they tried to find out what the common denominator was in so many women ending up with uterine cancer, breast cancer, fibroids, the type of problems that affect your reproductive system, this is a little bit much. All right. So these companies began to say, no, we've always been very forthcoming and we've only used chemicals that were known to not cause harm. How do you know? How do you know? This is an ever evolving world where we see things later on, but you have to know up front if these things cause a health challenge or not. And most of them knew, but chose to not inform the users. Now, if you think about it, hair straighteners were for who? Who needed the texture of their hair to change? Not just because they wanted to, but because someone told them, made them believe, made us believe that we were less than because of the texture of our hair. We gave a lot of people credit and control. But like I said, if we knew then what we know now, things would be so different. Well, they're like, well, what are these products that you're talking about? The ones that we are constantly seeing now are not in the products that we use. Hair products such as dye and chemical straighteners or relaxers contain a number of chemicals that act or may act as carcinogens or endocrine disruptors, and thus may be important for cancer risks. Okay, straighteners in particular have been found to include chemicals such as phthalates, parabens, and metals, and many release formaldehyde when heated. Formaldehyde. Y'all know what they use formaldehyde for, right? Okay, just saying, all right? Now, rates of uterine cancer are still relatively low, accounting for 3.4% of estimated new cancer cases this year, according to the National Cancer Institute. However, rates of uterine cancer in the U.S. have been increasing, especially among Black women. The study showed Black women were disproportionately more likely to use hair straighteners. Why? We talked about those reasons. The study found that 1.64% of women who never used chemical hair straighteners or relaxers would go on to develop some type of uterine cancer by the age of 70. And for frequent users, that risk more than doubles, increasing to 4.05%. With that being said, let me just also tell you, these women that were diagnosed, when they all tried to find out what that common denominator was, it came out that they used chemical hair straighteners because they felt societal pressure, including from employers, to wear their hair straight and to try to meet white beauty standards. This has changed over time as more women embrace their natural hair textures and wear natural hairstyles. Now, with us wearing our own natural hair, look, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. It's not let me just throw something in my hair and get up in the morning and go. No, that's not how this works. It's work for our hair to look amazing, because we're not just about throwing a rag on our head and calling it a day. No, we're still going to be on point. We're still going to be fly and gorgeous and commanding those second looks, regardless of whether our hair was according to the white beauty standards. Okay, since the case looks to represent all consumers nationwide who bought any hair straighteners or hair relaxers made by L'Oreal or Soft Sheen Carson in the United States or its territories, excluding California, at any time between November 8, 2016 and the present. However, I'm sure it's going to go back further than that, because we all did. They knew this and did not give us a chance to decide if we wanted to use them for ourselves, to weigh the risk out to see if we wanted to take that chance. Okay, now it says more specifically, the 46-page lawsuit out of Michigan alleges certain Dark and Lovely and Optimum Smooth products, among others, are adulterated with toxic endocrine disruptor chemicals known as EDCs, known to increase the risk of endometriosis, abnormalities in reproductive organs, various cancers, altered immune and nervous system function, respiratory problems, diabetes, and neurological and learning disabilities, among other serious health problems. The presence of EDCs such as DEHP and other phthalates in the L'Oreal and Soft Sheen Carson products at issue is especially concerning, given that the chemicals in hair relaxers and straighteners are absorbed and metabolized through direct contact with the skin. Often, hair relaxers and straighteners can cause burns and lesions on the scalp, which can exacerbate the entrance of chemicals into the body. There you go. But I want to make sure that you are aware of these things. Now, how do you prove that if you've had any of these challenges, that you wore or you had your hair chemically treated at some point? Let me tell you something. We are a picture society. There was not one time that your parents weren't proud of their little so-called angels when it was time for you to give your Easter speech, or when you went to homecoming, or to the prom, or even when you graduated. When you graduated, they made sure you absolutely looked more than presentable. So yes, we do have pictures, and pictures tell the story, honey. They tell the story. So if you feel like you have been affected by these things, I promise you, you can Google it. You can turn on your television, and I promise you, you will see a law firm that is handling this. I'm just telling you, find out for yourselves if this is something that has affected your life. If you sat there trying to figure out, why in the world am I going through this? This is not something that runs in my family. You've had people in your family, women in your family, who have lived long and never had a challenge with any of these reproductive or It's a wide variety of cancers and tumors and fibroids and things like that that have come about as a result of this, but it wasn't part of your family tree. It wasn't in your family history. So I'm just encouraging you to check for yourself. I'm not trying to have you be, a money chaser or anything like that. No, but I do know that I've seen it in my own family, how it has affected all of us. All of us, because we're like, where in the world did this come from? But it wasn't in my grandmother's generation. My grandmother never, her and her many sisters, my grandmother was one out of 16 or 17, one of the two, and not one of those sisters ever put a perm in their hair, never put chemicals in their hair. Their hair was straightened with a comb, a hot comb. They never did these kinds of things, and yet they never had these types of challenges. Never. And then my mom's generation on down to us, our hair was permed. And even to probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago is when it finally stopped. I do remember walking around and the top of my head was severely burned from a perm. From a perm. So I'm just saying, I want you to be in the know. I want you to be aware. I don't want you to walk around wondering, what in the world did I do to cause this for myself? Check it out. I just want to make sure I look out for you. If I sit here and say on my channel, I got you, and I know this and don't share it, that's a problem. That's a problem. So I'm going to put a link down below so that you can check into these things, read more about it yourself. Okay? And then talk to someone. I promise you, there is no harm in talking and finding out why. Finding out why. So please, 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 if you feel like this is something that may have affected your life, please get it checked. Please get it checked. Because the choice should always be yours. That choice should never be taken away from you as to whether the chemical risk is something you want to take. But you don't know if you were never told. And many of us are readers and read the back of those boxes and the ingredients and things like that. There were never any warnings. There were no warning labels. Do you remember when years and years, decades ago, when they started putting warnings on cigarette packs? So many people were developing cancer from cigarettes. Then all of a sudden, that warning came up. Why? Not because the ingredients changed. These were the same ingredients from before, but they certainly didn't tell you that they cause cancer. So, what makes us any different? I'm just telling you, take your power back. Make a decision for yourself. Okay? Well, I just want to tell you, I thank you so very much for choosing to spend time with me on today as we discuss this serious topic. Come on, I'm just trying to look out for you. I'm just trying to look out for you. Why? Because regardless of the season that you are in, you will always be a seasoned beauty. Until next time.